Good morning, everyone.
Morning.
Welcome, or afternoon to some folks. Welcome to MVP Office Hours number 10. Looks like we still have a couple people joining, but we have about 7 people on the line. Let's go ahead and get the MVPs to raise their hands inside the application, and we'll go do a round of introductions to the MVPs, and then we'll start out with some questions and answers from the audience. So for you that have attended, thank you for attending. This is our 10th one. And in this forum, we take questions and answers from any of the people within the community that want to ask questions specifically about Salesforce functionality. There is a time structure to the session, so normally we try to get the native CRM functionality done within the first 30 minutes, and then we can move on to custom development and Apex in the second half of this call. So my name is Joshua Hoskins. I'm a Salesforce MVP and also a solution architect at Aperio. Been doing a lot of things in the community since I don't even know when I started, but I've run the Orlando user group. I restarted the Singapore user group. I started MVP Office Hours with a fine group of people here assisting me. And with that, I'll go ahead and switch it over to Steve since he's online. Steve, you want to go ahead and introduce yourself?
Hi, thanks, Josh. I'm Steve Molis, or if you're active on the Salesforce Answers community, you might know me as Steve Mo. And I've been a Salesforce admin since 2003 when we first got Enterprise Edition. And my life has never been the same.
Great intro. Thanks, Steve. Thanks. Next, Brian.
Hi, this is Brian Kwong, also known as the guy that wears the Salesforce Wizard hat. You might probably see me on Twitter. I'm also Salesforce MVP with a foot in both the admin and developer world, working at HealthGrades. And you can see me on Twitter at Kwongerific.
Well, thanks, Brian. Glad to have you. And Deepa.
Hi, this is Deepa Patel with Halep Consulting. I've been working with Salesforce for almost 5 years or a little bit more, and I am absolutely happy to contribute and help here.
Cool. Thanks, Deepa. Glad to have you. Are there any other MVPs on the phone? All right. Cool. All right, so the typical way that we run these meetings for those of you guys that have participated is we normally try to collaborate in the chatter group. So if you registered for this meeting, you either click directly on the link or you went to the chatter group. So if you want, you can go to officehours.info and sign in with your Salesforce credentials, and that will take you to the community, the chatter community that we have related to MVP Office Hours on success.salesforce.com. And so we also use that area to follow up conversations that don't get addressed on this meeting. So you can chat your questions there, or you can also just raise your hand inside the ReadyTalk application, and then we'll address you to ask your question. So if you have a question, I'd go ahead and raise your hand within the application, and we'll just start going around in the circle. And everyone knows what happens to people who don't raise their hands. I just start picking on people. So do we have any other questions out there to answer? All right. I'm going to start picking on people. So I'm going to go in alphabetical order. So Bart, are you out there?
I am, but I don't have any questions today. I'm just kind of listening in as a fly on the wall and see if there's some things I can pick up that I can capitalize on.
Okay, that's awesome.
Thank you.
Thanks for attending. Bill, are you out there? Okay, it's not that. So for those of you that are just listening, I challenge you to think of a question in the next couple of in the next session. We may come back around to you. Brendan, you always have questions. You're out there.
Hey guys. So I was wondering some good resources for learning about Visualforce. because I'm not on the developer side. I've only done admin stuff, but I would like to learn a little bit about how to do Visualforce. So I was wondering if you had any good resources for that.
Cool. And so the MVPs, if you want to respond, go ahead and raise your hand, and we'll get you to do that. So I'll turn it over to Brian.
Hey, so I learned Visualforce completely through the community. So there's a few things you can do. One is developer.force.com actually has a lot of different things, including I think actually a workbook that walks you through a whole bunch of different Visualforce examples. That's very helpful. More helpful would be just some community resources. So there's the forums on developerforce.com. There's also the new success community. I wouldn't be surprised if there's at least a group that's dedicated just to Visualforce items. Some other places you can look if you have specific questions on something you're trying to do with Visualforce would be the Stack Exchange. If you just type Stack Exchange in Salesforce, you'll find it. There's a lot of Visualforce examples out there buried in the answers of the questions. There's also an IRC channel. If you are familiar with the old SKU communication before, we've had alt chatter and everything else. If you use IRC, you can go to the Freenode server and go join Salesforce, and there's a whole bunch of people that are developers, and that's another great place. So that's where I actually go to typically for most of my Visualforce questions. But for like concrete examples, your best bet's probably going to be a combination of developer.force or developer.force.com's website, getting that workbook. There's also CodeShare that's in that same area that will post a lot of examples. But that's where I would start to try to get ideas. And then if you have specific questions of I'm trying to do X, or I'm looking at doing Y, or I'm having a problem with this code, those other resources are fantastic for trying to get specific answers.
Excellent. I'm looking at the Stack Exchange now. Seems like I'll have some fun with it later.
Great.
Cool. And then I just have one more add too. They're called Force.com workbooks. So if you type in Google Force.com workbooks, you will see a site that's on the developerforce.com. I also just posted it to the chatter group for MVP Office Hours as well. And that contains a list of all of the workbooks that they actually give out at what do they call it this year? Customer Company Tours and also Dreamforce. And so if you go to that page I posted, you'll see the Visualforce workbooks and the Apex workbooks. A combination of those will probably get you started in how to marry Visualforce and Apex together with your custom controllers. There are also some other good ones on here around integration and the work that you can do on database.com. So that's also a great starting place as well.
Excellent.
Cool. All right. So anything else from you, Brendan?
Nope, I think that's it. For the most part, I was just going to hang out and support you guys.
Okay, awesome. Next one we have Christine. You out there?
Hi, I'm here. It's my first time, so I'm really listening on this end. I have started on the new data loader. I don't know if that is a question now or for the second half.
Sure, we can take it now.
I'm pulling information in from a SQL and putting it into a box or an FTP. Is there best practices on how to take that information and schedule it to go into Salesforce?
Oh.
Yes. Sure answer is yes. So I just want to make sure that we get your endpoints confirmed. So the data is coming from a SQL Server database?
Correct.
And then where you're wanting to put that data directly into Salesforce from the SQL database?
Correct.
Okay. So yeah,
let me kind of back up just for a second and lay the foundation.
Sure.
If our sales is on Salesforce and our other departments are not on Salesforce, they're on Microsoft SQL Server through the database. So I want to be able to match up information from the database from the other departments and update the information that the sales team is using.
Okay. Yeah, it's a pretty common use case that we see. I'm a data guru, so I'll take the first crack at that. So you can do it with a lot of different utilities. There's the cloud utilities like Informatica, Boomi. They will do that. What they do is they install agents on a computer inside the firewall, and you can build your queries and your queries from the SQL database. And obviously, you have to match up using a key. Now, what's key when you're building an integration like that is you have to establish the primary key for each of the records that you want to update, unless you're going to be creating net new records, which you can still do. But in order to do that with an integration, you want to make sure that you have an external ID that's specified on the object model. And out of the box, I think you can have up to 2 or 4. If you ask Salesforce, they can probably expand that. But you want to make sure that your ID inside of Salesforce will match the ID that you have inside your database. So with the data loader just out of the box, you said the new one. Are you talking about the Jitterbit data loader?
The one that you can do .io, is that right?
Okay. Okay, I have not looked at that one, but I will say that there is some capability with inside the, I think you want to call it Lexi Loader, that was the old code name for it. You can write XML files to basically talk to SQL Server, and then obviously put that stuff into Salesforce. That's one way. I think I haven't experienced a lot about Data Loader IO, so I'll let Deepa provide some feedback as well.
So I use the Jitterbit data loader, and that's when we were doing actually a migration for a client from a SQL database into Salesforce. And everything worked well except for the description field. The data loader choked on the description field because it was just way too big, and I couldn't import data to try and bring in the description. I had to eliminate that out of the import to bring it in. But otherwise, the Jitterbit data loader works really well. So it depends on what fields you're bringing in. Are you bringing in any of the big blob 32,000 character fields?
No, not at all.
Then Jitterbit data loader is a really great tool. It
what
works
is it called?
really well.
Peter?
I'm sorry?
Can you spell it for me?
JITTERBIT.
Okay.
The only thing is, it's like their cost is really high. It's like $10,000 a year or something like that. But you might want to give them a call and see, what it is now. I mean, this was like about a year ago or so when they first came out. I tested it out, and the 32,000 character didn't work. I haven't done it recently, so I'm assuming they've improved the tool a lot. But check them out.
Okay. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I'm also a big proponent of Jitterbit. I've used them for integrations with their integration suite, and it's a great product. And just to be able to talk to SQL, and it's basically you actually create the SQL endpoint, you put in the credentials, and you can map the fields. What I was recommending earlier with Data Loader, it requires a knowledge of XMLs and beans and things of that nature. But the Jitterbit is definitely the way to go if you're looking to do this all via what I call point and click or declarative interface.
Okay.
And you also may want, I think I did. I'm gonna take that as a personal action to look up Data Loader IO. I had a customer that used that for most of their ad hoc integrations, and mainly what he was doing is he was actually having the SQL database output CSV files with the SSIS packages, and then he would pick those up from that server, and then he would upload them in Data Loader IO. But it was a manual process just because it was during the data migration phase. But from the integration phase, I assume you'd look to automate that.
Okay. Thank you.
Cool. Yep, no problem. Deepa, anything else?
Nope.
Awesome. Okay. Cool. Any other questions from you, Christine?
Well, I could ask a quadrillion questions, so I'll just leave it to one more, so that way we can turn it back over to the group. But I've been working in Salesforce as a CRM manager for over 5 years now, and I'm in Columbia, South Carolina, and part of the user group, which is excellent, in Charlotte, North Carolina. There's also another group in Charleston and also in Greenville. My problem is those are over 90 miles away from me. So it's tough to get to, and started to look maybe implementing a user group here at a local level. And I heard, Josh, that you started one and wanted to maybe get some suggestions on the best way to go about doing that.
Yay to you for thinking and starting.
Yeah, kudos to you. Yeah, that's definitely an amazing point. When I started the user group, there were probably about 10 people, and I know Orlando has grown to over 50 people for each of those meetings. So yeah, it all starts out with reaching out to Salesforce first. So I can definitely share with you the Salesforce contact that I have in terms of getting you started there. You also may want to branch out to your Salesforce account executive that's in charge of your account, or your local success manager if you know any of those are, and let them know of your interest as well. And then having those two people engaged already, when you submit your request to the program advocate, which is Matt Brown, and I'll send you his information, but he's responsible for all of the user groups, all over the world. And so having those people involved is the best place to start. And then your AE and your success manager locally will sort of give you an idea of the other, the number of customers who are also interested in your area. Because when you set someone up, you also have to make sure that that there are customers in that area that are also going to attend. And then there's also options to do virtual meetings as well, which we can maybe get some of those other meetings that surround you, hook them into like a virtual session so that you can attend or at least be able to see their content. So let me do that. I'll get you in touch with Matt Brown, and we'll see where we go from there.
Thank you.
Hey, yeah, no problem. No, thank you for being a self-starter. We need more people like that. Deepa, did you want to weigh in on that? Just what it's like to be a user group leader, I guess.
Well, the thing is, it's like initially when you start, the best way to do it is, like Joshua said, reach out to your local sales rep and say, I'm starting this, and can you please send this out to all your customers in the local area, And what I want you to, the best thing to think about is, what is your first meeting going to be about? What are you going to discuss? Are you going to have a format like we're having where people come and they ask questions, and you maybe have a subject matter expert there present that's going to help you answer? Or are you going to find someone who can maybe sponsor that, depending on where you're holding it, because it's going to be dependent upon the location. Is it going to cost you for that location? Are you going to provide food? Are you going to have, is the time going to be in the morning or the evening? You're going to need to look at all of those things, and maybe the first meeting can be like, I'm thinking of starting this. Customers, please come out and let's talk about what would be the best format. So it's going to take baby steps, but the first thing I would say, in order to get the audience, make sure you involve your sales rep, because he's the one who's got all the emails for all the customers that are in your area. And I guarantee you, when someone finds out that you're creating a local user group, they're going to jump on it, because there's so many people that need help, and they're going to be, I have a place to go ask questions, other than Answers Board, or the community. So a lot of it is going to depend on how you structure it and where you're going to hold the meeting. And maybe if your Salesforce, local office has a bigger building, you can first say, can we have our first meeting there? And if they say no, find a local restaurant that you can go to and have a different section where you can hold some tables and have a meeting there. And then once you get the buy-in from everybody, then start going, okay, how do I do the next step, and how do I go find a sponsor? And and we'll all help you with sponsors as well. Like, we're right now creating a list for sponsors that all the user group leaders can share. So I'm very glad you're starting this effort, and if you need help, feel free to reach out to all of us.
Thank you.
Okay, cool. All right, I'm just going to, before I hit down the rest of the list, I've got some people who have had questions, and so let's go back up to, actually, I will continue going back to the list because Brandon already asked the question. So let's go to Karen. Karen, you out there? Okay. Let's go to Lori. Lori, you out there? people may just be on the video portion. And then Tina, are you out there?
Hi there, this is Tina.
Hey Tina, how's it going? Thanks for attending.
Oh, thank you. Well, I'm just listening in today, but you know, I'm paying attention to what people. I've already picked up a couple things. I like the learning aspects of it, and I'm trying to get a bit. I've attended some training classes, and I'm pretty new to Salesforce. Within the last year, I'm mainly a user, but I'm also starting to get into the other aspects of it. So anything for learning, I'm definitely open for, and to get a better picture of what's going on. So if anybody has any suggestions for a newbie, that'd be great.
Awesome. Yeah, there's definitely resources. Thanks for attending. This is one of the great resources that we offer on a biweekly basis. So this is a really good resource in my opinion, because it allows you to basically ask free-form questions instead of trying to interpret your own understanding and not have someone to bounce your ideas or your understanding off of. So it's a great resource. But there's also things like success.salesforce.com. You'll find a lot of books. There's developerforce.com, where you'll be able to set up your own developer org to actually play in without having to play in a production instance or a sandbox that is provided by your company. But I think some of the other folks, any of the other folks, Steve or Deepa or Brian, do you guys have newbie resources? Maybe top two?
You know what? I got a little distracted. What was the question, Joshua?
Top two newbie resources.
Top two what resources?
Newbie, for new people ramping onto Salesforce.
Oh, absolute new people. Oh, well,
where do you start? Right?
The first thing I like two different places that I go to if I was a newbie. One is the Salesforce help files. Those are it's really, really, really good. And believe it or not, even after so many years of doing it and being an MVP and knowing this product in and out, there's still times when I go to the help files to go okay, I don't remember what was this, And the second place is initially, if you're absolutely not familiar, I would say go to YouTube and look at some of the basic videos, because it's really important that you understand the data flow of how data flows into Salesforce before you can even start doing any kind of admin development or try and attempt to do any level of customization. Because if you don't have that basic understanding, you're going to have a hard time going, how do I present this for my end users? So it's a combination of understanding the absolute basics and then coming back, and going, okay, how do I build this out for my internal people? So I would go to that. And the lastly I was going to say is look at some of the blogs that some of the people have. I know I have some blogs, but I have a little bit of advanced stuff on there. Shell Black has a really, really good blog where he puts a lot of basic stuff on there. And Joshua, I know there are a couple other people. Can you remember who the other people are? I know there are some couple other people. Oh, Mike Gerhold. He has a really good blog, and he also has a really good podcast that gives you a little bit of some basic functionality as well. So it's a combination of blogs, YouTube, and the help files, and that will get you started.
Thank you. Now, where would one go to? Where would one go to the Developer Force Com to get that started?
Okay, you would actually go to developer.force.com.
Okay.
Now, what is your primary role? Are you going to be an admin? Are you going to be getting into some development? Are you going to be doing marketing or a combination of things?
I'm kind of a combo. I'm going to be in between. I'm in an account management department, but our IT department is really lean. So I attended some training last year, and I haven't really put it to use.
You might have to do something like create a custom field or...
Well, yeah, creating fields,
okay.
Creating some screens.
Yeah, okay, so if you're going to do anything, even if it's not going to be something you're going to do right away, but it's something that either interests you or you will be doing down the road, the absolute best thing you can do, if you do nothing else, is go to developer.force.com, and on the front page, there's a link in the upper left-hand corner that says Start Building Today, and there's a link that says Get a Free Developer Edition. Get a free developer edition, and then get another free developer edition. Get as many as you can. It is the best thing. It is a fully functional Enterprise Edition Salesforce org that comes already loaded with dummy data already in it of almost every standard type of record you can imagine. So it's already like it's plug and play. I mean, if your company doesn't use cases, but you're reading up about it and you want to figure out how they work and if you could use cases, your developer org, the second you log into it, has accounts, contacts, opportunities, and cases already. The records are already in there, so you can see what a case is and how it interacts with the other objects and how it could be customized or leveraged. Without, it's great. And also within the developerforce.com, they have a section called the Technical Library where they have, as Josh mentioned earlier, the workbook tutorials, which are great. They break down an aspect of Salesforce into its core. So if you want to take a deep dive in just report building or dashboards or Visual Force or just the nuts and bolts of database development on the platform, they're all in a purpose-built workbook, and that workbook is broken up into like 8 to 10 exercises that are like bite-sized, like 15, 20 minutes some of them, or half an hour at the most. I think the longest exercise is like 30 minutes from start to finish. So like you can bang out one of these things on your lunch hour and learn an aspect of development or customization. Developer Force, I could go on all day about just how incredible getting a developer edition account is, and the resources that are immediately available. The workbook tutorials, the cheat sheets are great. And then I can't say enough about the success community. I mean, if you have a question, and that question starts with, how do I ... go to success.salesforce.com and post your question.
Oh,
One more
all of
tip.
that sounds...
There are people right now all over the world, some of the best and brightest admins and developers in the world, online right now, just chomping at the bit, waiting for somebody to post a question so they can take a crack at it.
That
and
is
one more
wonderful.
one more tip for you: when you get the developer org, use a personal email address. Don't use your company email address, because the way Salesforce does is your user ID is like tied to your email address. I mean, not exactly, but the user ID has to be in the form of an email address. And so if you've already got an ID with your work email address, you won't be able to create another developer org with that same ID.
Yeah.
Plus, if you switch jobs, if you have something with your personal email address, then you can take it with you wherever you go, right? Like your work ID is with your work, and if you leave the company, it's there. They're going to deactivate it, and everything's going to be there. But if you have an org with your personal ID, then that stays with you. And sometimes, like when we need multiple developer orgs, I'll go create like multiple Yahoo IDs or multiple Gmail IDs, that are all tied to my primary email address. And so this way now I have more options for creating multiple orgs where I want in different scenarios. Like if I want to build out different scenarios, that's what I do. And the other thing that I found has been really helpful for me, and this goes along with what Steve Moe was talking about. If you come across a scenario, and this is how I used to answer questions on LinkedIn. If I came across a scenario and somebody asked a question and I didn't know the answer, I would go into my developer org, build it out, and then come back and say, here's how you do it. So kind of I learned with the process, but I also helped somebody out. So that's, if you have a scenario and somebody says, I want to do this, go do it in your developer org. This way you're not hurting your business org.
Yeah.
And I'm done.
And which edition are you guys on?
Shoot, we're on the current one, I believe.
No, so within Salesforce, there are different tiers of the product called Unlimited, which is the top. Then there's Enterprise, which is below that. Then there's Professional Edition and Group, and then Contact Manager. When you logged in the very top border of your browser, it will usually say the name of the edition. So if you're on Enterprise or Unlimited, you get a sandbox which you can develop in, which is great. But I still would recommend getting a developer edition org, even if you have access to a sandbox to develop in, because as Deepa mentioned, your developer force org is yours. You change jobs. You take that developer force org with it. It's yours to keep for as long as you want. Whereas if you built something on your sandbox and you left your company, that admin's going to shut off your access to that org. And if you had like a really cool process you built or report or something like that, everything you have is gone. Your access to that is cut off. Anything you do on your developer org is yours for as long as that developer org has electricity flowing through it.
Excellent advice.
And one more
exciting
tip for
too.
you.
Yeah.
One more tip for you, okay?
Okay.
And this is where I find, because we all do all kinds of complex stuff, and you'll get there. The other thing that I do is I do screenshots and put them on Evernote, and then I make notes against that so that I don't forget. Like one of the things that we do is we build magic buttons, where Steve Moe does that too. And sometimes I just forget that something shouldn't be capitalized, and I have it capitalized, and I drive myself crazy going, why is this not working? And Steve Moe has helped me out there and saying, make this lowercase and it's going to work, So what I do is I make notes like that in Evernote with screenshots so that if I ever find that something's not working for me, I can go back to Evernote. And it helps with right from the beginning. If you've done something and it might be that you might forget, then take a screenshot, make those notes in Evernote so that when you come back to it, you'll have something to refer back to. It ends up becoming like your own documentation.
Yeah.
Cool.
Great example. I mean, my primary developer org, I've got like 5 of them now. I have basically every formula and report and workflow that I've ever built for any question I've ever answered on the Answers community. It's like my library of formulas.
Wow. Okay, that's impressive.
And I never have to worry about, if I change jobs, losing access to all those formulas and reports and things. Because sometimes somebody will post a question on the Answers community, and I'll take a crack at it, and then 6 months, a year, 2 years down the road, I'll get somebody will propose a question within my company, and I'll be like, I built something for somebody a while back, and it was a lot like that, and I can leverage that thing that I built, and I don't have to rebuild the wheel. I have the wheel sitting in my garage somewhere. Unfortunately, it's usually buried under a whole bunch of other crap, but I do have it somewhere.
That's very good to know. One of the things that I think that as you were telling me all the benefits of it, that I think is exciting as well, is that I'm being dumped into a heavily modified system right now. And it's got, I don't know where the base package starts versus ends, and where our stuff starts. So, I don't want to build off of something that didn't really work to begin with if it's not something that was inherent in the system.
Yeah, and the other nice thing about a developer org is it can be like your mad scientist laboratory, because it is completely independent of your org. While a sandbox, if you are on Enterprise or Unlimited, is a development environment, it should be as close to a mirror image of your production environment, with the only difference being things that you are working on that may at some point be moved into production. You don't want to go crazy in your sandbox until it becomes like this, you've got buttons in there that you don't even know what they do, half of them, or formulas and workflow rules, because what you can wind up is you're playing around in your sandbox going crazy, and then somebody comes to you and says, we need something built in the production environment, so we need you to develop it. And the next thing you know, as you start building that custom solution for this project, you've got workflows that conflict with things. You've got triggers that conflict with things. You've got validation rules that conflict with things. Your development, I used to use the analogy when I did a presentation at Dreamforce a few years ago. I said, you develop a force and org, you don't have to, if you don't have to worry about creating a button, and if you accidentally click it, it causes the guy in the next cubicle's printer to catch on fire. It's completely autonomous.
So here's a couple tools for you that will help you out initially, okay, when you said, I'm not so sure what's custom and what's not. So there's 2 free tools that are out on the App Exchange. And I always install these on any org that I start with. One is called FieldTrip. And what FieldTrip does, it goes and does an analysis of all the fields that are in a particular account, opportunity cases or context or whatever those records are, and it kind of gives you a detailed view of how many fields are populated and what % of the records have it. And the second tool is called Easy Describe. And what that does is that will give you an Excel spreadsheet. Like when you download that, it gives you an Excel spreadsheet, and it gives you all the fields that are in that particular record. And the way to distinguish between a standard and a custom is a very simple thing. A custom field is going to have an underscore C at the end of that field. Standard fields don't have an underscore C. So when you go into your backend and look at the fields, and you look at the field name, not the label, the field name, any field that has underscore C, that's a custom field that somebody built. So take those two, put those 2 tools in your production org, do some analysis, and that will help you figure out which ones are custom fields and which ones are not. But that will also give you a very good idea of how many people are entering stuff into the system and how many are not, and then you'll be able to do an analysis and say, here's important stuff that's not getting filled, and how do we make it so that people do fill it. So there's lots of different ways you can get started.
Oh, excellent. Thank you.
You're welcome. I'll put the links to it on the MVP office hours.
Okay, great deal. Thank you.
Cool. It's a lot of great information. Thanks, guys, for chiming in. Wanted to circle around some other people who have pinged me in the chat. Bill, are you out there?
I'm here.
Hey, Bill. How's it going? You wanted to touch on some more information about Jitterbit.
Yeah, Deepa asked me to maybe give a little bit more info on Jitterbit. Try to go into a little bit more of the advanced stuff without confusing people too much. I'll post links on the MVP office hour site as well. So in Jitterbit, very drag and drop, so how we talked earlier, if you just want to map your fields. But once you drag and drop and map a field, you could double click on that mapping, and you will get actually into an advanced formula builder. So in the case earlier where Deepa was saying she wasn't able to import a large text area field, well, if you map this way and then go into their advanced formula builder, you can convert fields from maybe date to date time, bit to text, all those type of functionality, plus do left, right, any of the formula type of stuff we're all used to in, Salesforce Formula Builder. Plus, much more advanced, you can do if statements. So if you're trying to do an import, you can say if this field equals that, import this field, else import a different field. So, again, you can go very advanced if you want to go that way. So in the case that DEPA had, you would actually be able to take a large, field that has too much and truncate it down to the size you need to, so it could actually import without erring and without, having to do anything to your existing data.
Was this
If anybody has
functionality
questions on that.
initially in there?
I don't know. I've only been using it for the past about year and a half.
Okay.
So I don't know about before that.
Okay, because I wasn't aware of that. So maybe the functionality was there and I didn't know, or I didn't have.
Yeah, they hide it very well.
Support.
So.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, so if anybody has questions about it, again, I'll post kind of the links to the Jitterbit help sites. But again, if you're familiar with Salesforce formulas, you can do pretty much the same thing on that while you're doing data imports or integration.
Awesome, great feedback. Cool. And then we also had another question from Brendan come in. Brendan, you out there?
Hey guys. So right before we started talking about Jitterbit, just by coincidence, I spoke with them yesterday. My org is looking to integrate 4 of our programs together. So we want to do Salesforce, Jira, QuickBooks, and Zendesk, and then possibly later on down the line do 2 more. So the original question was, what programs do you guys prefer for doing a mass integration like that? Because currently we're in talks with Domo, which is incredibly expensive and would force us to get the API enabled because we're in professional, so that would be an extra 14 grand in our case. So some that preferably would be within Salesforce that we wouldn't have to do any kind of API enabling. And since we have a Jitterbit expert, what your thoughts are as a user of that.
Is this Brendan?
Yes.
You need to convince your people to get Enterprise. Sorry, buddy. Sorry.
I know, we have 47 licenses.
That's
exactly.
I approve that.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I just had to put it out there.
I know.
So yeah, I mean, getting on Enterprise is the first step. The only advantages that you're going to see with Force.com on Professional in terms of enhancements without the API enabled is anything that comes out of the box with an AppExchange package. That's pretty much the extension that you have, other than things calling into into your organization. But I agree with Deepa. You probably want to look at Enterprise because of the value statement that it provides. I mean, it may be an incremental cost for all of those users, but when you take a look at the incremental cost for all those users, you're actually adding a huge amount of value and potential for future phases and road mapping within the Salesforce organization, which is pretty cool. I think you probably want to, if you haven't already, look at it at a comparison just to see it. The value that you could get with paying for Enterprise, and then obviously how you would leverage that, and why it's worth the spend. Mm-hmm. So Jitterbit will need the Enterprise Edition or API turned on in order to enable it. The applications that you mentioned, I recently just worked with Jira for the first time last month. It's a pretty cool application. I like the fact that I can assign tickets and cases and workflows just by using the keyboard, which is kind of cool. I would love to have that ability in Salesforce one day. And I haven't seen anything around Jira. You may want to check the AppExchange for that. Zendesk, I know, has some type of application for Salesforce. Don't really know what that is, but it's probably listed on the AppExchange. And then QuickBooks. I think Deepa or Brian may be able to answer more about the QuickBooks. I've tried to integrate with QuickBooks a very, very long time ago, and the trouble is it's a client-based system unless you use the web-based version. And I just don't know in the Salesforce community if we have a concrete solution. Whoever creates that concrete solution for QuickBooks could probably earn $5 million+ because there are a lot of organizations looking for it. So,
hey, Joshua, there's another opportunity for you.
For me,
problem is, here's the problem with
doing a million
QuickBooks.
Things.
The Enterprise version integrates with the desktop version, so Salesforce Enterprise integrates with the desktop version, and then the Salesforce Group and Professional editions integrate with the web version. Now, because it doesn't integrate with the web version, none of my clients ever decided to go because they were all on QuickBooks Online. And so really, whoever develops this has a huge opportunity here, but the reality is that QuickBooks, Intuit, doesn't give, they're not very good at opening up their APIs, and you have to really fight tooth and nail with them, and I think that's why nobody's done it.
Yeah, in our case, we use QuickBooks on site, so we're not even using the online version, and I get the sense that finance wouldn't even talk about going on to that specific version, unfortunately, because that would make things a lot easier. But do you guys know of any programs like, say, Domo or Jitterbit that would put it all together as opposed to one-offing, say, QuickBooks, Zendesk into Salesforce with multiple companies?
That's a pretty, the thing that matters is I think your integration need is spanning across multiple applications with different purposes. So, when typically enterprises want to do that, they invest in a middle-ware tool, technology, either Boomi or Informatica or, Cast Iron is probably out of your price range. But and then they try to form what they call an enterprise service bus, which is basically a suite of services that are able to be communicated to and from and with this piece of middleware. So, and Cast Iron is the most tool that I've worked with that's helped us. Or really, we use Boomi at Courier. We use Boomi, but I've used Cast Iron at other organizations. And essentially, you have to create an orchestration that has a start and a stop, and you can create as many orchestrations as you want across many endpoints. And when you're looking at integrating with all of those environments, you kind of need to have a middle place where all of those requirements and rules lie, because they're not going to talk. All of those systems are just simply not going to talk to one system in a cohesive fashion, because they're all for different points in the process.
Okay, yeah, that certainly makes sense.
Yeah, but I would start checking out one of those online providers like Informatica or Boomi. Those would probably be your two ones you should start out with, and just see what applications they plug into. Because the real benefit for these types of middleware is to get as many connectors as they can. And so you'll see that Cast Iron has a connection to SAP, it has a connection to Oracle. Boomi might have some connections to Zendesk and things like that, because it's more popular. But check out those cloud ones before you go to more of an on-premise, because on-premise, I think, will just increase your IT debt and footprint. And if you have resistance with IT, it's just going to be frowned upon.
Okay, yeah. I'm going to research that for probably the rest of the day, because that actually sounds pretty good.
And Brendan, when we say go to enterprise, I guarantee you the cost of enterprise is going to be less than what you're going to pay for trying to get just the API and build these things out with other applications. It's trust me on that one.
Okay.
Your cost is going to be so much higher while you're on the professional edition versus the enterprise.
Right, and just to add on that, like we said earlier, I think that jump from professional edition to enterprise edition is what we call EE, is always a tough factor to justify inside of a small organization. And I had an organization that I supported in Orlando, and they probably only had 20 users. And I went to my first user group meeting, and I came back and I was like, we have to go to enterprise. We have to do this kind of stuff. And they made the jump. But it was because I was able to justify the features that we would be able to take to leverage on the enterprise versus being in PE. And when you take a look at that justification statement, it can really be really broad, right? It can be hours of someone's time. It could be seamless integration, so people are working with the right data at the right time. It can be automation, saving someone work. So there are multiple different facets that you can really talk to when you put that price tag to the difference. So you take a look at your cost for Salesforce Spend Monitor and PE, get your AE to say how much it's going to get you to EE, and the most there's a sweet spot in the time if you're really looking to negotiate. So you really want to negotiate with Salesforce during their end of quarters, and they have a weird fiscal schedule. So if you chatter it or ask anyone or ask your Salesforce AE, they will be very transparent to you and tell you when their end of the quarter is. And that's the best time to be able to negotiate on price with that switch, because obviously they're trying to close out the quarter. So that's a good time. That's also a good tip. But a place create a whiteboard listing of all of these things that you could take advantage of. And then at the very end of the day, when you have to go justify the cost, just attach that list with it. Like, hey, if we spend this money, we could take our company to another level because we'd be doing these features that are tested, proven to work. Other organizations are on them, and we'd be in a better place. So if you really want to look at moving the needle, then moving the needle starts with actually having people do what they should be doing versus entering data in twice into the system. Checking to make sure that this data in this system here equals the data in this system and reconciling. We really want to, if we're spending resources, we want to be able to spend resources in a smart way, and that starts with automating as many things as we can.
Okay.
My next role is going to be in sales. Any other feedback from anyone else on that topic? All right, cool. So let me just see. So I'm going to rotate back around, and if you guys have any other questions, please do raise your hand. Let me ask that question first. Does anyone else have any questions? So Bill, Brendan, Christine, Lori, and Tina? Any other questions that come to mind?
I've got plenty to chew on. You guys gave me a lot of work to do. I've got a lot of good tips, and I appreciate everybody's effort.
Hey, no problem. Tell all your friends about MVP Office Hours. We do it bi-weekly on Fridays. It's from, I believe, 9:30 to 10:30 PST. So there's also a slide deck for those of you who do presentations in the community or want to share, how to get to MVP Office Hours. There's a slide deck that's attached to the chatter group as well in the bottom right-hand corner that you can also share with your friends and colleagues. Our goal is always to drive more attendance and community collaboration. So thank you all for coming, and it's much appreciated. So if we don't have any more questions or any more feedback, I'd love to give people 7 minutes back in their day. All right, looks like it's a wrap. Thanks for attending MVP Office Hours 10, and we'll see everyone in 2 weeks. Have a great day, guys.
Thanks.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks.
Bye. What? No second? That's insane. Hey guys. Waiting. No way. Hey, what's up? Oh. It's not working. What's up? It's fine. Thanks.
Welcome to GoToMeeting. Online meetings may... There are other callers on the call.
Hello. Hi. It's Fabulous Friday. It is, and I think you guys have the pleasure of being. Are you my last call? I think I have one more call, but I've got tons of. I've got tons and tons of follow-up with you. So I'll go out and have cocktails for sure, but then I have to get back to work. So what's up, guys? I don't think that BG is going to be able to join us. I think he's just finishing up another meeting. So what's up? Yay! That's awesome. I don't think I've ever L1. This is my first time hearing that news, so that's awesome. Awesome. Right. So a couple of key steps. So one, I'll let DG know he will shepherd the whole contract processing and things of that nature with you guys. I don't expect for that to take too long. Our legal team is great. We turned around that other line doc, the NDA, pretty quickly. So that usually happens fast. We do need to get staffing aligned, and that's usually the toughest part is when people sign with us is actually getting that project team aligned and making sure we've got this done for you guys. So there's a horizon. I don't know what that is right now, but it's going to be related to obviously getting either the right people. So and then additionally, what happens after that is I have to have a kickoff call with the project team and internally, and then with you guys externally. So lots of steps to happen. We can certainly start the process and see where that goes. But just know that there's not a bottleneck intentionally. There's just a bottleneck in terms of making sure we get the team aligned, making sure we get the right people, and then the paperwork process aside. So all good stuff. Okay. So I'll let them know. Okay, cool. But you'd like to, you said you'd like to start on the 9th. I don't know if that's possible. I'm not saying it's not possible. It's just not my team. But from your input, you're going to be back and you'd like to do a kickoff on the 9th, right? Ooh, after Labor Day. Okay. Okay. Yep. We'll do whatever is possible, for sure. Okay, cool. Yeah, I want to get it done this time too. Like, I want it to happen yesterday. But BG usually handles that. Like, I'm the tech guy, so I work on doing all that kind of stuff, and unfortunately, BG just wasn't available for this meeting. So I will make sure that he reaches out to you, Kim, today, and just follows up with that. He's more familiar on the closing process than I am at this point, and he'll be able to be very transparent with you as well. Cool. Yeah, I was excited to be working with you guys as well. I was told BG, I'm like, if this deal closes, I'm gonna have like my eye focused on it. Just because I obviously I spent a lot of time with you guys, and I want to be around to make sure that we kick things off right, and we basically get what we want to deliver to you in the quality within that first month. Okay, awesome. All right. no problem. So you guys have a great weekend, and we'll talk soon. And Tim, I'll have you reach out to you. All right, thanks, guys. Have a good one. All right, bye.
Thank you. Please stand by.